Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's chat. I'm very, very sorry that it wasn't working on Facebook. For some reason, Facebook didn't want to play it tonight. But welcome to the second installment of Between Me and You with the wonderful Alexandra Burke. Now, obviously, me and Alexandra both were on a very well-known TV show called X Factor. She won the 5th series in 2008. She's had 3 huge hit albums and countless hit songs. She's also tread the boards in musical theatre, playing some of the most iconic, musical theatre roles. The Bodyguard, Dolores Van Cartier in Sister Act, done Chicago, Chess, just an incredible varied career. And also had huge success on Strictly Come Dancing as well. So please, without further ado, can you please welcome to the show the fantastic Alexandra Burke.
Hi, darling.
How are you?
I'm good, babe. Just as this started, my door just knocked. And I could see the delivery man right there, patiently waiting.
Well, do you know what? We got there in the end.
Oh, no, he's left it. He's left it at my gate.
Oh, he's left it?
Yeah, he's left it right there. This is great. But we got there.
You know what? The good thing, I was just going to say, the good thing about lockdown is that actually with deliveries, they do just leave them at the door. They don't now say you weren't in.
Yep, they're literally just leaving at your door. And it's so, dare I say it, it's very convenient.
Yeah, we nearly didn't get on there. For some reason, Facebook didn't want to play, but we're on. And everybody... Yeah. And everybody's glad you're here. Everybody was excited.
Oh, amazing. Well, you know what? The joke of it is, babe, you're really good at all this stuff. I can't do all this technical business. And I told you this early before we started. This, for me, would cause me, I'd start crying because I'd be that frustrated with myself that I couldn't do it. Your patience is beautiful.
I was getting a little bit of a panic on there thinking, oh my
God.
God.
Oh, bless you. No, they'll understand. Hopefully those who've joined in will understand. Technical difficulties happen all the time.
Yeah. So welcome to Between Me and You, where we're going to ask each other 10 questions each.
Yes.
And my first one, I've obviously just mentioned there about like The Bodyguard, Sister Act, Chicago, all of those roles that you've done, and Chess as well. I want to know, obviously, playing iconic roles from famous films and musicals, which was the most enjoyable out of the ones that I've mentioned, or maybe ones that I haven't mentioned?
Oh,
which came with
say that one more time, babe, the last bit.
Which was the most enjoyable and which came with the most pressure?
Okay, cool. So I'm going to start with the pressure question first.
Okay.
I feel like the one that came with the most pressure definitely has to have been The Bodyguard, 100%. Because I didn't originate that role. Heather Headley did in the West End. And I feel like there was a lot of pressure on myself, because I know that artists in general, we're all perfectionists, right? We just want to be the best that we can be and do what we can do and make sure we do it at a level where we're very proud of. And sometimes not even that's enough, like we beat ourselves up all the time. But that one for me in particular, because I've grown up listening to Whitney Houston, of course, like her biggest fan. My mum was her backing singer. I felt like there was just so much riding on that role in terms of doing my family proud, doing my friends proud, like making a bit of a statement for myself in the West End. Like I'd gone straight from an offer at 23 years old to do it, and I turned it down to originate the role because I thought there's no way I'd do it justice. Yeah. To them calling and saying, it's the last 3 months, will you do it? And I was like, and I remember my mum being like, if you don't get your backside on that plane home from New York, I will make sure you do this role. And thank God I listened to her, because I only done 3 months in the West End. I say only, but that's such a privilege. Yeah. And it was just amazing. But the pressure that came with it, like singing Whitney 6 times a week, I was doing the evening shows only, and even talking to you about it now, like, you know how I feel. You came to see me on tour. And all I did was, I messaged you halfway through going, I'm really sorry, I sound so terrible. Do you remember? Yeah, but can I also, what I wanted to tell somebody, I thought was really funny, that I've just thought of when you said that, before when I came to see you, and I had a migraine, and you thought I wasn't enjoying the show. Yes! Guys, listen, Joe came to see me perform, and I kid you not, it opens up with Queen of the Night, like fire, all guns blazing, and all I see is Joe in the audience doing this. And I was like, oh my God, I sound terrible. Joe's really not enjoying this. And I remember walking off stage going, see, not even my friends enjoying it. Like, and I read you so wrong, wrong.
On the way there in the car, I had a splitting migraine at the point where I was
no.
the lights of the show.
Yeah.
Well, spectacular, not when you're having a migraine.
Honestly,
I loved it.
If you've come to the Bodyguard and you've already got a migraine, I tell you what, just get a refund, because it will hurt your head even more. I'm surprised you stayed.
But you were incredible in that show. And
thank you, babe. Thank you.
I think anybody having to sing Whitney, I think even when people have to sing Whitney Houston songs on karaoke, they virtually have a heart attack. So
babe, it's difficult. Like, so I put a lot of pressure on myself, and hey, look, maybe I didn't need to, but at the end of the day, I wanted to do the role justice. Some people, you know, my mum was my biggest fan, and she'd always say to me after every performance, like, she'd give me criticism, but say, no, you're made for it, you're made for it. And in the back of my head, there was always this niggling little thought of mine that I go, what if I'm not? And what if it's not right? And what if I can't do Whitney justice and all of that? But that's the one where I think I put the most pressure on myself. But I did enjoy it. I have to say, I did love the role. I loved singing Whitney. We just finished that in February 1st. The one that I think was the most enjoyable has to be Chicago, playing Roxy Hart. Yeah. To have the privilege of playing that role. Like, I remember seeing it in 2015 on Broadway when Brandy played Roxy Hart. Wow. And I remember sitting there in the audience going, I said to myself, that role will be me one day. Yeah, listen, it took me 3 years, but I got there in the end. And I couldn't believe that I put it out into the universe and it came back to me. Yeah. And I was so happy. And I just wanted to get on that stage, like, as soon as I could. And I'll never forget, like, even just down to my last week of being on that show, because I went back to Bodyguard after, I was heartbroken. I didn't want to leave. And for me, that was my favorite role of all time.
Yeah, I didn't get to see you do that, but I heard you were incredible.
It was so much fun. Like, it just was funny. That's all it was. It was just, I had endless amounts of fun, even in the matinee. Like, I can't describe it. It brought me so much joy. And I met amazing people on that show whom I've stayed in touch with, and like really good, like the friendships from it as well. I feel like that's what's really made it a thing for me, because of the friendships. So you understand that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, hit me with your first question for me. What do you want?
Okay, babes. So, since you were on the X Factor, how quickly did life change?
Well, I mean, there's very kind of limited people that understand the process, and obviously you understand it. It's pretty instant when it changed. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember walking down the street the day before the Judges' Houses episode was aired, and nobody even batted an eyelid or they didn't care, nobody looked, nobody turned or anything. And then the day after Judges' Houses episode was aired, we were in the X Factor house. I went out to get a coffee, and about 15 photographers all jumped out the cars and everything. And before you know it, there's an absolute hysteria outside the Starbucks. So yes, for me, it was literal. When people say overnight recognition, it was that quick. But I think that the time when I lived in such a bubble in the house, which you know as well. You live,
yes, of course,
of going to do the live shows in the cars and the rehearsals and everything. It really hit me in the first week as the winner when you go and promote the single.
Yes,
I had a bit of a kind of freak out, because I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to say, and I don't know how to say it. And it was kind of like you weren't in that protection of the brand anymore,
right?
And everyone was kind of like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this?
Yes,
and that. So I would say the first where I was like, whoa, this is a lot, was probably the winner's week of like promoting the climb.
Yeah. I totally, because it's weird, because it's funny, because I've known you for so long, but we've never really gone into depth about the experience behind X Factor. Yeah. And having both of us being winners back to back in terms of the years. Yeah. It's like we've just met and gone, oh, okay, we won the same show. This is amazing. And we just connected, but we've never had an opportunity to really talk about it. So that's why I had to start with an X Factor question, because it's so intriguing for me to understand how you went through it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's I was talking to Faye Tozer last night, and she was talking about the whole thing of being in steps, and how being at such a young age and constantly being on that treadmill, she was, you don't have enough time really in the early days to go through a lot of things. So
Mm-hmm.
constantly kind of, I said it in an interview not long ago, I felt like for the first kind of 3 years of my career, I was just bouncing off a load of walls.
Yes.
Bang. Okay, yeah, next thing. Boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
It's very kind of, it wasn't, I didn't really start enjoying things and taking in the moments, I would say, until about 4 years in.
Do you know what? It's so weird you say that, because only now us bringing this up and me thinking about it, I feel like I'm definitely probably the same, because it's one thing winning the show and then getting pulled left, right and center to do loads of gigs and to do this and to promote that, blah, 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 blah. And it's amazing, but you don't actually have a moment to take it in. There's never really a moment.
People tell me about things that happened in the first week of winning the show and in the first couple of months. I cannot remember. It's like it's like out.
Same.
Like going on a night out and being drunk and then waking up the next day, you're like, what did that person say to me last night? You know?
Yeah.
Adrenaline high. I want to ask you, like, do you have, when you are planning things, you know, obviously you said about the Chicago thing of you put it out in the universe. Do you have a bucket list of career goals or life goals? Or do you have something that you haven't already done that you're like, that's what I want to do?
Okay. Yes, I do. Plenty. I think the biggest life goal for me, I said this not too long ago with one of my friends, Vass, recently in the Instagram chat. The biggest life goal for me and the biggest success that I'll ever have is creating my own family. Over everything. I feel like I'm at that age where I've taken in so much. This is now 11 years, or is it 12 years now? It's coming to 12 years at the end of this year, God. And you take it all in and you actually go to yourself, your biggest achievement would be raising a family and giving back and all this hard work, you know, you want to leave it to someone, and that's I think would be my biggest and greatest achievement. Then go into career side of things. I think as a British woman, my dream is still to perform on the Brits. My dream is to still, you know, have that moment. And I've been nominated for the Brits, you know, for a Brit Award, I think 3 times. I could be very wrong, could be twice. I can't remember. But my brother would be able to tell me because he keeps all those stats in his head. But I think for me, performing at the Brit Awards would be something as a British woman, like, mind-blowing.
Well, it's music recognition, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Like all Grammys, I suppose, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And it's so important because, you know, like we've had the honor and privilege to you know, to be able to attend these kind of events, and it's great and everything. But once you're recognized for your work, that's a whole different level. And I know that nomination, I'm so proud to have been nominated and for a couple of Brit Awards, and having that recognition in itself is just major and beautiful. But the creme is actually having that moment to be able to express as an artist and be on that stage and perform. I think that for me would even just like, could that come close to hopefully one day winning one? I'm not even thinking that far. I'm just thinking about wanting to perform on a stage where the world, you know, tunes in to that award ceremony. And to be British and to do that, I think would just be a real icing on the cake.
Yeah. Have you been nominated? Did you get nominated for Hallelujah?
Yeah, so I got nominated for Hallelujah. And I can't remember the other 1 or 2, and I'd have to ask my brother, and it's really awful that I don't remember, but it's so long ago.
Got nominated, surely.
Sorry, babe?
Bad Boys must have got nominated.
I can't remember, you know, like this is really poor of me to not remember, but I know it was a couple of times, so I'll get back to you. I'll have to text my brother. He's the brains.
What do you want to ask me for number 2?
Hold on, babe. As I looked down at my computer and I was like, it just went to sleep. Hold on, it's coming. Just got to put my password in. Right.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What was the defining point you realized life was and going to be very different to what you considered normal? Now, I know that you said that it changed literally overnight, but was there a moment where, like, can I give you my example of my moment?
Yeah, go for it.
It was not a great example. I was very close to having a massive mental breakdown when it all became too much for me. And when I realized things weren't normal, and I had to accept it. And when I say that, I mean, it was like, I think I was releasing Start Without You, the single. And I remember doing a 24-hour video shoot for it. And I remember just being extremely tired and I tried my best to keep everyone, it's not a 24-hour shoot, it was a 22-hour shoot. And I remember having Red Bull and keeping everyone going. We'd already shot the video twice. I'd been to LA to shoot it, back to London. And I always felt like what I was doing just kind of wasn't good enough. And I remember mentally going, if I don't get away for a week for myself, I'm going to have a breakdown because this is not normal. Yeah. And so I went away for a week to kind of get myself in gear, and it really helped. I'd done meditation, yoga, and I thought to myself, no, embrace it. This is great. It's a blessing. It's what you asked for. So that was my kind of time when I realized this is not normal.
Yeah. Well, I think for me was probably, I think when the press attention started.
Right.
Like when you realize that people are kind of following what you're doing, and what you say can be twisted into things, and learn like how to and also when social media, I suppose, came into play as well, like learn how you act somewhere, and then somebody might tweet something afterwards, and then it builds onto a story and all of that stuff. And I became self-aware for quite a while, and then I got to the point where I was like, actually, do you know what? I can't live the rest of my life being that self-aware about myself, you know, like, and I kind of, I felt like everybody was telling us that I was a role model, but I didn't feel like a role model.
Right.
I'm an 18-year-old boy that's just had huge amounts of success. And, you know, whilst you know, I behave how I've been brought up to behave, you know, and I'm polite and well-mannered and stuff, but I felt like another kind of pressure on top. And then I just, like, you know what, like, life is far too short for that. You can't spend.
Amen.
So that was, but I think I would say maybe around the time when I came out into the first album of stuff, I was a bit like, oh, okay, how do I act here? And you know, you almost feel like a little bit of a fraud in the industry, because but you feel like you've just been plucked. And, and you know, obviously I put myself on X Factor. I didn't expect to win.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're standing next to all of these like musicians who've been doing it years, and you're like, hi, you know, like, oh,
that's exactly how I felt.
You're a bit like, oh, this is different, you know, it feels different. Which actually goes on to the next question I want to ask you is talking about press attention and media things. What's the most outrageous thing you've read about yourself, or a rumor, the outrageous rumor or story?
I'm going to give you the most outrageous one, right? So apparently, whilst I was on Strictly, there was apparently a time when I was in the green room and I was throwing chairs. I was screaming at Claudia and Tess, going, why don't people like me? And apparently I had a fight with Gorka, and I was actually in hospital. And literally when I read the story the next day, I was like, how do people get away with making this stuff up? Like, I didn't even want to put out there that I was in hospital because I didn't want people to think I was playing a like vote for me card. And I deliberately just didn't say anything, and I let people believe it. And in hindsight, I probably should have maybe spoken up, but I was too scared to. But I remember reading it and just being like, this is crazy and ludicrous that people actually are allowed to put out false stories and information like that. And it's okay. You can just print that somewhere and people will read it, they believe it, and then all of a sudden your reputation is in pieces because people think you're horrible because of an untrue story. And I've had so many of them that I could go into, but I won't. But that one for me was like, wow, that's crazy.
And then I imagine that builds up, like, because obviously I've had it in a similar way with me, where people then paint a picture of what about you, and then you get like a misconception who you are.
And it's so frustrating because you can't, like my mum always said to me, you can't please everyone, and the moment you want to start pleasing everyone, you've lost. Like, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I get that, but at the same time, I guess it comes from as well, like, people have to remember that when I won X Factor, Instagram and Twitter was not a thing. So this is why I can't work this stuff, okay? I'm not technical in the slightest, all right? But it was I remember when I had to text Twitter to get a tweet out. It was a number you had to text. Like, it's evolved so much, but like, I don't come from that generation, so to speak. So for me, when I see people who are able to write stuff, and they call it internet trolls or whatever, when I see all of that, I'm just like, how do you have the guts? Like, how can you make someone feel so low and be constant? You're consistent with it, like, as well. It's so difficult to be a part of that world, and that's why I struggle with it, you know?
become like a faceless society, you know, and whilst you know, I've had a real respect for social media in the last couple of weeks of what it can do to bring people together.
Absolutely.
Like this. But I think that's what we need to remember going forward.
Yeah.
You can use it for really good, positive things.
You really can. Yes, 100%. It can be so positive. Yeah. And it's just that it's a shame that like even with media outlets and stuff like that, like for me, people always say to me, no, don't you hate the media? And I'm like, no, I don't, because everyone's got a job to do. And I get people have a job to do. And yes, cool. I don't like untrue stories. I don't like false accusations, etc., etc. But I'm not the only one going through it. There are plenty of other people going through it, sadly.
I don't know if you agree with this, but I learned quite a while ago that if a story or somebody wants to send that narrative in that direction, you can't change that narrative.
Right.
So I've learned now to just be myself and not try and change somebody else's narrative of me.
Amen.
Yeah.
My manager actually gave that one to me and said, look, you've just got to be yourself. My old manager, Jess, as well, they both have said the same things to me, where they're just like, you know what, just do you. Yeah. And all it is, as long as you're being true to yourself, people will see what you're really like, and the rest can make up their own minds. Yeah. And that's what's important, is that people actually see you for who you are.
Nice.
Yes, this is great. Okay, my question for you. If you could change anything since your time on X Factor, what would it be?
First, straight out the gate, just not to worry so much.
Yeah.
I used to panic so much on that show about like, but I do also think, and I think I was going to say before when you were saying about the pressure you put on yourself on a show and you never think you're good enough and all of that stuff. I do think that also makes you a lot better at your job.
Yes.
You never settle for, you know, you never settle and go, oh yeah, I'm brilliant at this now, I'm just going to coast through it. And I do think that helped, that I worried back then and I panicked. And I was panicking about the words and the choreography and stuff. But now I kind of, if you know, the good old saying, if you knew then what you know now, I would have just not have panicked as much. I used to be terrified.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I could hide my nerves so well.
Yeah.
I was terrified. Every week I used to be thinking, don't forget the words, don't forget to look in this camera, don't forget to do this, you know. It was just like, yeah, it was just,
wow.
It just worried. But I suppose that as well.
You know what, I have to say that I really relate to that as well, because the worrying part, if you didn't worry, it means you don't care. If you didn't have nerves, it means you don't care. So I get it. But I would tell the younger me at the age of 21 winning such a huge show, 20 I won actually, I would tell myself the same thing and not to worry. Yeah, definitely.
100%. So talking about Strictly before and the outrageous Strictly story.
Yeah.
Did you find the filming process of Strictly, did it vary from X Factor, or did you find that it massively helped? I was talking to Faye again last night about Strictly, and obviously because of us kind of being from that background of straight into the kind of X Factor machine, I imagine, I don't know because I've never done Strictly, but I imagine that kind of put you in a much better position than some other people, because you just know how that format works.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, to be honest with you, it gave me obviously a good foundation to be able to perform in front of cameras, because I don't like cameras. I really can't stand them. And we live in a world where cameras are everywhere, like your phones, etc., etc. We're on a camera right now. I can't stand them. So they just make me really nervous. And I have to always picture like I'm in a pub somewhere in order to perform. But because Strictly was so out of my comfort zone, in the sense where I didn't have a security blanket like a microphone or a mic stand to play with, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know what to do, because I was just like, oh, this is weird to me. I know I love to dance. I've always wanted to be trained in Latin and ballroom. I never had an opportunity as a child to do that because we couldn't afford to. But for me, it was like, it just was weird, because it was completely out of my comfort zone. And I kid you not, actually, when it got into a couple of weeks into it, I forgot about the cameras. I forgot about the people that would be in the audience. Yes, I was so nervous every single week, but I always said to myself, enjoy those 2.5 minutes you're dancing, because that's the only time that you get your freedom, that you can express.
Yeah.
And I was going through a really tough time at the time. And I remember saying to myself, in those 2.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes, no one can bother me. No one can even touch me. I'm free. I'm in my own world. I'm in my own bubble. And I used to tell myself that. And I'd honestly, mentally morph into a different person. And people would say to me, it's your alter ego, whatever. But I never will forget when family would come weekly and see me. Like, for example, week 2, the Paso Doble, Craig Revel would come up to me after and said, Alex, I felt your mum inside of you. Like, I felt her spirit was right next to you. And I turned to him, burst into tears and went, that Paso Doble, like I was screaming. We should watch it back, Joe. You see that I'm screaming the whole way. Yeah. And I don't know what came over me. And I remember finishing it going, it was like an out of body experience. And I never will forget going, oh God, like I felt like a spiritual transformation. And I know it sounds really weird and some people may think that's strange, but I felt like I was in a different world every time I danced because I love to dance.
But it's no
and it may be similar, like when we're on stage, like when we're on stage, I don't feel like the girl I am sitting here talking to you. I feel powerful. I feel like this is the most exciting, exhilarating time of my life for however long we're on stage for. And then when you come off stage, I'm a bit like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself now. Do you know what I mean?
It's a form of expression. Like it just like a song, and a song might make you cry. Yes, I you know, doing a dance routine is a way of expressing. But that's funny you say that because I do things on stage, and then when you see clips back of it, you think I would never do that.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's what I mean. It's like it's like a different person, and if you perform or if you have a way of expressing yourself, even if it's not through performance, even if it's like just through doing poetry or whatever that is, like reading to people, you will understand that feeling. It's a weird, incredible feeling that money couldn't buy.
It's like what I would say is it's like an extended kind of bolshier version of your personality. I always think. Yes. You know, like I kind of say and do things, and I do act a little bit different on stage, and it's still me, but it's a bit more of a kind of, I can push the boundary a little bit more of what I was just in a room kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%.
Ask me next.
So, you know, actually talking, it's funny because it's a great to transition into this question because obviously you are so used to performing all the time, as am I when we're both touring and we finally get to catch up in whatever city we're in. And now we're literally doing nothing and in isolation, and it's literally the opposite. So I wanted to know, because you're not on stage, and because you're not having to go to meetings and rush here and there, what's the best thing about isolation for you, mentally as well?
I think mentally, I've never, in 10 years of working, I've mentally never allowed myself to be so still, which I'm taking as a positive. It's been really kind of nice to just be still and not think, all right, I'm packing a suitcase to go somewhere else. And also just to kind of spend time with my own thoughts and not be on that treadmill of just, you know, like we said before, bouncing off the walls.
Yes.
As much as now I can kind of compartmentalize that and not make that happen so much. Every now and then when you're hitting a kind of busy patch of your job, it still happens, and before you know it, you're on that treadmill and you're rushing around. So I'd say stillness has been did you say worst as well?
And worst as well, I was going to say, yes, yeah.
I think worst is that I just miss people. Like, I'm a people person, and I've got my mum here with me.
Oh, hi, Mum.
And we're proper people, you know, like we just love being around big groups of people, chatting with people at the house, you know, a bit like your family environment. You know, everybody's always there. Everybody's always cooking food, chatting, bringing things in. The door's always open.
You know.
That's the one thing that I do miss, but I'm trying to remember that by doing this, you know, we're saving a lot of lives and we're helping a lot of people, you know, and it has to be done. So not to make positives and lights about it, because if in an ideal world it would never be happening.
Exactly.
If I could take something from it, it's probably that, you know, to try and be a little bit still. Or maybe my next question then, in terms of probably not in isolation, what would your perfect day be? It can include work, or it could be a perfect day off. What does it involve?
Okay, so my perfect day, and I'd probably talk about just a day off where away from work and stuff. First of all, if anyone knows me, they know that I'm a lover for animals. So I have my 4 babies, and I always would love to start the day with a dog walk in the forest. And that for me is therapeutic, it's peaceful. And even when, I love meeting other dogs as well, and their owners. Like people, if you see me in the street, talk to me, because I really love talking to people. And that's what I'm like when I go for walks and stuff. So that's how my day would usually start. I know this sounds weird, but a perfect day as well is working out. I love to get the endorphins going. I love to work out. I work out pretty much every single day. I'm doing something every single day. Try and change it up so I don't get bored. I love baking. I love cooking, and I'll make sure that my heart is always in the kitchen, because for me, the way to people's hearts and happiness is through food.
Your tomato soup looks amazing, by the way. I've seen you making your tomato soup a few times.
Honestly, I'm making too much food, babe. Like, I'm always trying to get, like, I got out Jamie Oliver's 15-minute recipe book today that my auntie gave me for on tour. And I got that out today because I thought I want to try something different and stuff. But I just love cooking. I love being in the kitchen. I love to bake. I'm actually going to be making on Friday. I'm going to make an apple crumble again, because it's one of my favorite desserts. Another perfect moment in the day for me would be sitting around the table with my family, and all of us just watching everyone laughing, smiling, eating, rejoicing, being together and connecting. I never forget that. Like, for me, my one thing is, and I know it tires me out, but whenever I'm on tour, I make a point of coming home on a Sunday. I make a point of being at home. I make a point of family dinners, Sunday roast. You connect, and then I go onto stage on the Monday, and I'm exhausted. My voice sounds like crap, but I don't care, because I had the best Sunday ever. And I
need a little day's reset of normality, don't you?
You have to, otherwise what's the point? Do you know what I mean? You can't be a slave to work. You have to be able to enjoy your life and enjoy your family time, because that time is very precious. And also for me, if I can include all this on a perfect day, I love to go to the movies. Popcorn and the movies is my thing, mainly Disney or Marvel. I'm a massive fan of. And then catching up with friends on the phone if I've got the chance to do that all in one day, which probably won't happen, but you can dream.
Anything's possible when it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So my question for you, now going back to a bit of isolation things, what advice would you give to people stuck indoors, and particularly for the people who have had that text from the NHS that have said you've got to stay in for 12 weeks? And I know I've got a couple people in my life where they like one of my dearest friends, my best friend Nalini, she's got the text because she's got underlying health conditions. Yeah. And we spoke about it the other day, and she's not really struggling for things to do. She's quite what's the word I'm looking for? She'll experiment and do whatever indoors. But at one point, it's gonna get to a point where it gets a bit, not boring, but tiring just being inside. So what would you advise?
Well, I think the rule is there is no rules to it. You know, I think you have to just do. This is like, I hate using the word, because everybody say it's all I hear on television. It is an unprecedented time. You know, like it's never happened before. Nobody's ever done this before, and with that kind of causes a lot of panic and worry, and everybody's kind of thinking, when's it going to end? And there's no end game at the minute, which I think plays on minds. But I think the thing is you just need to do whatever you need to do to get through it. You know, but my tips might not work for everyone. I do find exercise is a really, really good thing. In your living room, if you're lucky enough to have a garden as well, just 15 minutes. It just puts your mind in a different mindset, you know.
Amen, yeah.
Sometimes I've woke up and kind of like, I've woke up feeling a bit grotty and just not feeling like up for the day. And I've got to get up, I've had a coffee, I've gone in the garden, done a like boxing session in the garden or a hit session. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to write a song now. And the creative juices are flowing, you know. But then other days I've lay in bed all day and I've ate countless amounts of horrific food, and that works as well. I just think it's like, do whatever you need to do, you know.
Yeah.
People are posting and trying to help and inspire people on online and stuff. But I also think you don't have to be creative in this time, and you don't have to force, because being creative shouldn't have to be forced, you know.
Yes.
I think loads of people are like, oh, you should be doing this, you should be writing a book, you should be, and I'm like, if it doesn't feel natural, don't do it.
Yes, agreed. And one thing I read an Instagram quote thing the other day, and it said, if you in this time of quarantine haven't opened a new business or been creative or done something to change the world, then it means that you are in a great place, because you can sit and just be still and keep yourself well and safe. And I think that's really important.
And also, like what I was just saying before, not many people are ever just still in their lives.
Yes.
And that's also a really good thing for your mind, to just be still.
Yes.
And your body and recuperate for when the rat race of life begins again,
And it won't be long until it does.
Yeah. So my next question to you is, I want to know most memorable gig that you ever done, or probably, yeah, I mean, it can be two questions, I suppose. Memorable gig you've ever done, or the most special moment you've had on stage.
Okay.
Where I would say you take like a picture with your eyes kind of thing.
Okay. The most memorable moment on stage for me, the one and only time, singing with Beyonce.
Oh my God. And I'm still livid that you got to do that. I mean, as much as I loved singing with George Michael, and that was incredible. And
that was incredible. So incredible.
Beyonce, Beyonce is my number one.
Listen, I mean, she's both our number ones. And it's weird because I know it sounds really corny, but if I watch it back now on YouTube, I get tears in my eyes, because I still watch it and go, very rarely I do, but if I do watch it, I'm like, wow, that's me.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I got the opportunity. Do you know what I mean? And I know people are like, I had some friends say to me recently, girl, that was so 11 years ago, you need to get over it. And I'm like, excuse me? It's Beyonce. Are you crazy? Of course, I'm going to live this moment till the day that God decides to take me home. I'm going to talk about it, be proud about it, and cry about it.
Good.
I will happily still cry, and I'm an ugly crier, so you don't want me to go there.
My favorite bit of that whole video is where you're stood there, and I know the feeling of when you know that somebody massively famous is coming on stage to sing with you, and then doors open, and you just see that silhouette of her behind your shoulder. I get shivers thinking about it now, because I'm like, just to know that Beyonce was just about to walk down the stairs. But I don't think I could have sang with her.
Babe, let me tell you what she'd done as well, which was the joke thing, right? Because she basically turns up 2 hours before we go live, and she says, do you want to sing If I Were a Boy, my new single? And I was like, I don't know it. I said, girl, you just released this. I was like, I don't know the song. And she's like, okay. And I was like, look, we can sing, listen, because I sung it 2 weeks ago, on the show by myself. And she went, well, that's what I heard, and that's what impressed me. And I was like, oh my God. And so then we get everything together, and that's what we're singing. And we have no time to rehearse, because I've spent the whole time crying, thanking her for being there. Her mum starts crying. Her stylist, Tyrone, starts crying. Everyone's crying because I'm crying. And it's like a whole crying moment caused by me. And then we finally get on stage, and she says, what hand do you hold your mic in? I said, I'm a lefty. And she goes, oh, so am I. And I was like, okay, cool. And she goes, but I'll hold it in my right so that I can hold your hand.
Oh, that's nice.
That was it for me. I said, Jesus, I don't even need to win. I said, that was it for me. The queen bee has said to me, she's going to hold my hand whilst we sing. And that for me, just, it calmed everything down, because I felt safe. She made me feel so safe. She's unbelievable.
Very humble. She's a very humble, iconic performer.
100%. She's so beautiful.
George Michael was like that as well. I always think it's interesting. You see those people, you see those people who, we've all been blessed with amazing success, but that is like legendary status.
Yes.
And when you see those kind of people, you almost half expect them to be horrible. And
you do, because they say there's that saying, you don't want to meet your idols. Isn't it? And my mum used to do backing singing for George.
Amazing.
Yeah, there was a documentary of here about George Michael not long ago that came on actually last year. And they had a massive moment where he was singing, and then my mum was in the background singing for him, and I was like, oh my God, there's my mum. It was brilliant to watch. Listen, my mum loved George Michael. The fact that you got to sing with him, like us as a family, we love him. What a privilege.
I was brought up on his music, because my mum is the biggest George Michael fan.
Oh,
and
did she get to meet him?
She didn't actually, because the hustle and bustle of that day.
Oh, yeah.
And
my family didn't get to meet her either until later down the line, but not that night. Not that night would have been way too crazy.
He did give her a from the audience. He gave her a little hi, ma'am. He gave her a wave from the audience.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, so I now want to know, if you can do this, Joe, with this, because this is very hard.
Okay.
Describe your career journey in 3 words.
Because
that is really hard. I wrote that down today and I was like, you ain't gonna be able to do this because I can't.
I would say varied.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say bumpy at times, but very just filled with love, like love.
Amen.
So much amazing support.
That's great.
And you know what it's like, and everybody in the music industry, you know, your career has kind of bumps and curveballs along the way.
Yes.
It's been very varied in the sense of the opportunities I've had. It's been at times just trying to find my feet and learn what I was doing and how to kind of navigate through the industry. But all the while through it, I've had so much love from the people that have bought the albums, came to the shows, and yeah, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change any of it. Because I think
that's good.
I've learned so much from it. It's been a ride, but it's
yeah. But you know what? It's an experience when it's a ride, because you won't ever take a day for granted. Like, everyone goes through experiences and rides in their career. But when you've had a bumpy one, or you've had one that's quite challenging, like I feel like sometimes mine's been quite challenging. That's why I use that word. And I say bumpy for me too. And I always go, but I'm really grateful, because it's been, every smile has a little frown and every frown has a major smile. There's been more ups than there has been like complications, so to speak. But it's great to be able to talk about those experiences to other people who you inspire.
Yeah, and also people who, you know, who are coming through the industry now, you know, like if I could sit now and say to myself, do you know what, in 10 years time, you will not care about this moment. You know, like you will really, you're panicking and you're stressing in this meeting with all of these people who you probably won't even be working with in 6 months' time.
Amen. Right? Don't panic. It's fine.
Yeah. And so, you know, I learned so quickly about those moments, which has obviously put us in great stead for going forward. I want to know what your process I know obviously you're always recording music. What's your process in the recording studio, like when you're songwriting or you're working with writers? Do you have a format? Like for me, normally have like an idea of like a chorus or some lyrics, then I'll take it in with somebody who plays an instrument, or I'll have an idea of a sound that I want to work with. What's your process?
My process for me is I've always taken my personal diary into the studio. So I like to write things or co-write things from the heart that I know that I can relate to in order to perform it. And if it's a song given to me, that's more than fine. I take those too, but it has to mean something where I can connect to it. Otherwise, what's the point in me trying to perform it, you know? But like, for example, when a really good example is I wrote this song for my mum called The Truth Is. I co-wrote it actually. And I remember going into the studio with the writers, Emma and Gordon, and I remember writing everything in my notes on my phone. And I was like, this is what my mum means to me. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to sing about, etc., etc., etc. And I just wrote down like a poem.
Yeah.
And I gave her my phone and said, turn that into a song.
Yeah.
And it just, like, for me, I'm not confident in writing by myself. I'm always confident writing with other people, sharing my ideas, expressing that. Because I always get quite shy at expressing it. And sometimes I either go, just read it because I don't want to talk about how I feel. Or I'll read a page from my diary and say, everyone just close your eyes for a second. Let me just read it and get over and done with it. Because it's so personal. Yeah. I don't want anyone to judge me, if that makes sense. But I know that I need to connect with my audience and connect with my fans and be truthful to them. So I have to get over that little hurdle of not feeling confident and not feeling like an idiot sometimes, and just go, no, I've just got to do it because my fans need to hear the truth. Yeah. That's what gets me through it, you know?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a, like, in all aspects of life, I'm a little bit of a kind of an emotional oversharer.
Right, me too.
Me and my mum have very much been like cards on the table, you know, this is how I'm feeling.
Right.
Certainly when I first started songwriting, weirdly, because I'm a very open book with everybody that I meet. That was the one thing that I found really difficult, was when, like, people were like, so what's going on in your life? And you're like, who me? Like, right. You know, I think because this industry makes you quite guarded, but then the minute I opened up, I was like, ugh.
It's like verbal vomit.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you get so scared about opening up because like you feel in a way that everything you're going to do or say or whatever is about to be judged by, the public. And sometimes people in the press take it and go, oh, she's written about this, she might be really depressed. And it's not depressed, it's just what I went through one point and I just want to talk about it because somebody might be able to relate to it. And hey, if I am going through depression, so what? I'm dealing with it, you know, like people deal with these things day in, day out, and you've got to respect people's emotions and what they're going through. But at the same time, I know I understand why some artists may feel afraid to open up because I was one of them. I'm no longer that person. I feel like I want to connect to my audience and be truthful.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. It's my turn.
It is.
Okay. So I really want to know this one. What's your best fan story you have?
What like in terms of like somebody like an experience with a fan?
Yeah, but a joyful experience where maybe they've given you a gift or it's been overwhelming about their support. Maybe they've turned up to every single show you've done.
You know what? I've had so many moments like that over the years, like where I've always, and I've said this before, like in interviews and stuff, every time I do my own solo tour or every time I release an album, I'm kind of like, oh, maybe this will be the last time I do this, you know, like,
yeah,
that's just the way your brain kind of deals with this industry. You're always kind of on the back foot of a little bit rejection every now and again.
Right.
And I'm always just blown away, like every time I do something and they're there and they turn and they're singing the songs and they're at stage door and the support online. I've had like so many moments, you know. I do remember one moment where it was my first solo tour, and it was after I'd released my classic album, and I was playing the Royal Festival Hall in London, and I went outside, and they said the security guy who was looking after us at the time, he said, "Oh, can you come outside? I've got a little bit of a surprise for you." And it was the end of the tour. I was exhausted, you know what it's like. And I was like, oh, like what? And he was like, I can't tell you, just come outside. And there must have been about 200 fans lined up the steps up South Bank with like scarves, posters, everything for this huge group photo. And they were all like, as I walked out, they were all cheering and singing me songs and everything. And it was quite early on in my career. And I remember it being like, I was like, wow. I've still got the photo. I think
that's so nice.
Somewhere, and I always remember that because I remember as well how I remember how tired I was at that point, and it was that last little kind of kick that I needed to get through the end of the tour.
Yes, the appreciation level was on like above 100 when you experience things like that. It's like it just takes you back, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've got
really
does.
I'll
ask you one more question. You ask me, and then we'll do your quick fire round. All right?
Okay, cool.
I want to know what your life motto that you always live by.
I have a few, you know, but I think the biggest one is don't live in your past and don't live in regret.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Don't live in your past and don't live in regret, because you're not allowing yourself to be the best that you can be when you're living back there.
Yeah.
You need to allow yourself to grow. Forget the past. It's done. Let's go. That's what I live by.
As Idina Menzel once said, the past is in the past. Let it go.
Let it go, baby. Let it go. Yeah. Let it go. Okay. One thing I have to ask you, which I'm coming out of these questions now because I feel like we've covered quite a few in different answers, but you've done so amazingly well in theatre and toured so much and endlessly touring with your own stuff, theatre, and you constantly go back to back.
Yeah.
What's the biggest role for you that you'd like to do that you haven't done already? And would you like to perform as well on Broadway? Is that another dream or bucket list thing for you?
I mean, I would love to go to Broadway, just because I love New York anyway, so I'd love to live there for a little bit.
Oh my God, trust me, you'd live your best life.
Yeah, and I think the whole Broadway thing and the whole world of entertainment out there is just, I don't know whether it's maybe because we don't work in that side of it. Essentially, it's, you know, we're here in the UK, and maybe they think that about us when they come here. It just seems grand, and you're like, oh wow, this feels different, you know.
Yes.
I don't know whether that's just because it's not your normal. I don't know.
Well, maybe it is, but also at the same time, I know that a lot of Americans come here and they go to the West End and they're like, this is amazing.
So maybe it's just because it's what we're not used to. Yeah. So that, I'd love to go to Broadway. To be honest with you, me major thing that I'd love to do is travel the world with me music or performance.
Nice.
I've done a lot of stuff just in the UK, which is wonderful and I love it. But I really do want to do a bit of traveling. So to be able to do that with work and travel. In terms of roles, the roles I've played that I've had the most fun with so far, I never thought I would play.
Oh, really?
So, like, for example, I just did Club Tropicana last year, which was a comedy role. I never thought I would do a comedy role. I never thought I would be any good at it. And when it got presented to us, the reason I took it is because it was a challenge and I wanted to push myself.
Right.
I had the best 6 months I've ever had.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because it was just so far out of my comfort zone, and I didn't get bored of it once because I was learning the whole time. So roles, I've always tried not to name a role because I think it's better if it just comes to you and you're like, oh, I didn't expect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. That's so fair. Yeah.
Like, the obvious one, I'd love to do. I mean, I'd love to sing like the Phantom music would be amazing.
I was just about to say, babe, why has he not said Phantom?
Yeah.
Because you know you'd smash it. You know, like,
I'd love to.
Oh, I'm so gutted I didn't say it before you because I was like, why is he not mentioning Phantom? Because we kill Phantom. I'm so pleased you said it. We put it in the universe and see what happens.
Let's see. Right, are you ready for your quick fire?
I'm never ready, but let's go.
I'm going to give you 2 options for the first 4 questions.
Okay.
And then it's going to be songs of yours that you have to guess. So the first bit is just quickly, All Night Long, I Start Without You.
Start Without You, because I got a breakdown in there.
X Factor or Strictly?
Oh, you can't ask me that.
You can.
You're wrong. I'm going to have to say Strictly, you know. All
right, great. Main course or dessert?
Oh, dessert.
Cardio or weights?
Cardio.
Okay. Complete the lyrics to your song. So I want the 2 lines after this line. When life is hard, let it fly.
Put your hands up to the sky. Come on, baby, bring back the light.
That's it. Next one. Which of your songs are these lyrics from? Because somehow I'm drawn to danger and have been all my life.
Bad Boys.
Yeah. Last song. Which album of yours is the song Tonight from?
Heartbreak on Hold.
Full marks. Full marks.
Yes! That was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining.
By the way, usually I would always have said weights instead of cardio, but I've started doing 5Ks every day. And I've found a new love for doing cardio, which I never thought ever.
It does and I really enjoy cardio.
Yeah, I enjoy cardio. I'm enjoying it now because I actually started doing it for the NHS and started donating every time I was doing 5K. Yeah. So do a 5 for 5 and then nominate 5. And I was nominating no one. And then I realized, oh God, I need to nominate people so they can get more money. And it's actually turned into a little love of mine now.
Do it.
It's just brilliant.
You just got to get some good music on and you're on.
Yes, and go. Yeah. Thank you for having me, babes.
Pleasure. Thank you. And we got there in the end.
Yes, we did. Now you just tell me after how I share it, blah, blah, blah.
I will send it all to you. If you stay on, I'll wrap things up and then I'll come back to you. All right,
babe.
All right. Thank you to Alexandra Burke. And I want to say sorry about the technical difficulty. I don't know what happened. We'll have it sorted for tomorrow. And tomorrow night we have Suzanne Shaw, who's another great friend of mine. We've worked together from Hearsay fame, Dancing on Ice, musical theatre. She's done everything. So join us tomorrow night for Suzanne Shaw, and tomorrow is at 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. tomorrow night, and it'll hopefully be back on Facebook. But again, we'll sort it all out and we'll let you know. See you then. Thank you for watching.